Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly review inside the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. I'm Eoin Devereux. I appreciate you taking a little bit of your time to spend with us. With me today, sitting on the couch, Casper Wehrhahn. Casper, great to have you there. That's really sort of been your spot the last month or so, hasn't it?
Really, yeah. Last week I was on the show, of course. I wrote quite a few stories, actually. And Kira gets to sit out once again because this week is our Remembrance Day issue. So we've got a feature in there that I've done quite a bit of work on.
That's right. Quite honestly, this week is Casper's Remembrance Day issue. This is a 96% effort by Casper. You know, Diane and John Drinkwater and Kira helped, about 4%. They did their part. I did my part by staying away, not mucking up the works. But this year's section, the B section, every year we try and do something sort of with a general theme. This year's theme is the remembrance of the history and how it's being remembered now in our communities. And there's several stories Casper worked on that touch on that. And I really, and I'm not just blowing smoke, this is one of those ones that we can hang our hat on for years to come, in my estimation. This is one of those sections that I genuinely hope you will take the time and read, because there is so much to take from that. Right off the bat, the very first page, the very first story, Sewing to Say Thank You is the headline. Casper, just walk us through the magnificent story of Mary Murray.
Absolutely, and this is a story that some people might already know, but it was quite a few years ago, if I remember correctly. I believe Kira Patterson did a story on Mary previously, but it was definitely worth highlighting again. Mary Murray has been quilting for about 10, 11 years, and she's actually a child of the Second World War. She was born right in the middle. She was 3 years old when her house in England got bombed overseas. And she vividly remembers that day, how it happened, the area it was at, and she goes all through that through the story, so I won't go too into the details because I would like if everyone took a few minutes to read that. But yeah, she's been quilting since 2009 roughly, in November, and gave her first quilt to a returned soldier in 2010. It was after a group of soldiers returned back to CFB Shiloh from Afghanistan, and about 13 of them had come back injured. And so with her background and hearing these people come back injured, she really wanted to do something to give thanks to these people, because without the people in the Army forces, really her family might not have survived World War II. She had to wait in the rubble of her home with her family, buried under all of that, for soldiers to come dig them out. So this is her way of saying thank you, and she's done it ever since she gave her first quilt. She gave it to Casey Crane, the first one, and she's just kept on doing it. She has a whole binder full of photos for like events that she's been invited to. She's pretty much family to this group, and she's gone on different trips with them, and she has all of the names of the people that she's given quilts to, all of the photos for them as well. And you actually get to see a photo of that on B2. It's magnificent. We were lucky enough that she trusted me with taking that book to the office. I gave her my word I would take care of that because I knew how important it was. So we have one of those photos in there, as well as a photo of her looking through it. And it is worth mentioning as well, she did expand into masks. She's donated a lot of them, not only to soldiers, but also to first responders and a whole bunch of other different stuff like that. And there's a bit more information on other places she's donated quilts to as well.
Yep, it's so inspiring. These little efforts that just you wouldn't even think of, but they inspire and they mean so much when you learn about them. Definitely, I hope that you will take a few minutes and learn about this inspiring story. It's really something quite tremendous. I very much enjoyed reading it and educating myself on that. Another story as well that has a personal significance for me also, because I was there the day it was announced, was the Minnedosa Legion's veterans banners. About a year and a half ago, a little under a year and a half ago, we shared that story with you about the debut of those banners that they put up in Minnedosa from the spring all the way up until the day or so after Veterans Day to represent and show their respect for veterans from Minnedosa and surrounding areas. And it has taken off in a huge way. And Casper did the follow-up story on that can be seen on page B8. And I'm very pleased to hear that this thing is not only being well taken care of, but it's getting bigger and better, isn't it, Casper?
Absolutely, yeah. Last year, in case people don't remember, these banners were unveiled. Of course, as Owen mentioned, he was at the unveiling there. And it was a collection of 25 double-sided banners, so 50 veterans on each side. But as of October 8th, the Minnedosa Legion now has enough banners to feature 108 veterans. So that is an increase of 29 additional banners. And they expect that with the coverage of this, they expect it to grow because they do cover not just Minnedosa veterans, but people who are in the area. And they get people calling from like across the country, like, hey, I know someone who signed up around this area. Here's a photo, their information. If you can do something with this, here it is. And it's just magnificent. And like they say in the story, is something that can remember these people for years to come. It's very public. So they hang it up early in the year. I don't recall exactly when, but it is in the story. And it's sort of a lead up to Remembrance Days. So it's not just Remembrance Day that there's some remembrance going on. Yep. It is a constant thing. You can see it for quite a while. And then the Remembrance Day services are there, they happen, and then they take them down shortly after.
If I remember right, I think it's, off the top of my head, I think it's either late May or early June that they originally were planning to do those things where they would go up. So you have several months leading up until Remembrance Day, and it's a wonderful little, it's a gift essentially to those individuals and their families, the support that they gave our nation, not just our nation. It's not just World War I, World War II, the Korean War, whatnot. It's peacekeeping efforts in Afghanistan. It's efforts in Cyprus. It's a whole collage of different peacekeeping and military supports Canada has done through the years. And like I said, when I covered it last year, it was something that I was very pleased to be able to write something on that, and to see this follow-up that Casper has done on it. I'm very happy to see that it's gradually getting better. It's bigger and better. I hope you will take a few minutes to sort of review that and the entire section. This little story behind the story, I mean, military collection of pictures of military individuals. Casper did a lot of work. There's some submitted items in here as well. Casper did a lot of work putting all this together. And this right here isn't just a week's worth. There's weeks and months. This is something that's been on the stove, as it were, since the summer. We've talked about it. We came up with concepts. Casper did the research and did a tremendous job of getting that together. This is not just a week's worth of work. This is an extended amount of time that the effort was put in there. And like I said, I got to commend you, Casper. This is one of the better sections. We always say we're proud of our sections, but sometimes we coast, let's be honest. This is one of the better sections we've done in quite some time, and the fact is, it comes down to you putting in the effort. So I big shout out. And if you run into Casper in the community, and hopefully you'll give Casper a shout out as well. Casper put in a lot of time and effort on that, and it shows on each and every page. So
thank you very much for that. And on that note as well, I do want to stress that as much of the effort that I did put into this, I couldn't have done this by myself. As Owen mentioned, we were brainstorming together because this year was really difficult. The past 2 years we did World War I, World War II, and it's like, what do we do this year? Like, what can we focus on what can we cover, because especially with COVID-19, like that makes our situation more complex. So the brainstorming for what to do, like I owe that to the people in the office as well. Couldn't have done it without the advertising, because we do rely on that for our paper to continue. So John going out selling ads, the people from the businesses buying the ads, the people who were willing to share either in interviews for me to write up stories or submitted items, like we couldn't have done this without all those people involved.
Yeah, and quite honestly, the story behind the stories is a half hour every week, and I joked with Ken Waddell just the other day, Ken, we might have to do a 2 or 3-parter, because we could focus an entire half hour just on this section, really. I'm as much as we've talked about it already, we've barely scratched the surface of some of it. So definitely pick up a hard copy, or you can see a version of it online on mywestman.ca. And as well, when you see that, you'll also see we got an A section, 24 pages worth, 32 pages in total out there this week for the Neepawa Banner Press. A lot of work went in there. And on the front page as well, a little bit of remembrance. This came in sort of a little after the fact. Some of the local festivities that were going on. Young people planting crosses on the military veterans' grave sites at Riverside Cemetery in Neepawa. We got a couple pictures. Bob Ferguson tuned us in on that and gave us the information and was able to assist us with that. We always appreciate that time and that effort that Bob puts in for us. You can see the picture on page 1, very good. Page 2 as well. Another item on page 2, not related to Remembrance Day, but it's definitely something a lot of people in Neepawa have likely been talking about over the last week. Confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Neepawa schools. There's been a lot of hearsay over the last few months, a lot of innuendo about, oh, this person or this business or, you know, this person who works in Neepawa but actually lives somewhere else has COVID or was tested for COVID. These are the first official cases of COVID-19 in Neepawa. And I got to admit, it's a little surprising. It took so long, but it was only a matter of time. Let's not kid ourselves. This is our reality right now. Let's all be precautionary. Let's all be safe. And let's make sure we're not stupid about this. I'm not saying be panicky, but just be smart about the whole situation. Take care of yourself and take care of others. The one case in the high school, another case at HMK Elementary School. Mid-October, I believe, was the HMK case, and later in October was the NACI case. They've taken care of it. If you read, I talked to representatives from the Beautiful Plains School Division, Jason Young. He walked me through the entire process of what they do to clean up after the fact. I mean, they disinfect twice a day already. But when there is a case, there is a very set structure that they do to make sure that they minimize the threat level. And that's exactly what they did. So you can find that on page 2. It's most likely everybody in the coffee shops has already been talking about all this stuff. But if you want the real scoop, if you want the details, don't go to hearsay, don't go to rumors, don't go to innuendo. Go with pure and simple fact. You'll find those facts on page 2 of the A section of this week's paper. All right, let's shift over. A little less fact, more just random opinions. Ken Waddell's column, and I have a column in this week's paper as well. We get to throw our opinions out there a little bit. So Ken, as usual, has his thoughts on the situation with COVID-19 and just a little bit of clarity about people just sort of being careful about that. And I'm not going to go too much into it. Again, Ken Waddell's column, he has his opinion, and you have your opinion on that as well. Casper, do you want to throw anything? Did you have any thoughts on what Ken had to throw out there this week?
Honestly, nothing really specifically related to column.
Yeah.
Just because COVID is so frustrating,
yeah.
And I'm just tired in general with all the news going on. But somewhat related to just COVID in general, I guess, and safety stuff, because we do want people to, stay smart, and hopefully people are doing that. I know not everyone is, unfortunately, as I saw yesterday on the news while my parents were watching it. Our bubbles are bigger than we think they are. And that's a fact. And I didn't really think about it before, but I did see something the other day that made me think about that. And, we think just people in my household, like that's my bubble, like maybe the people that I go to work with. But it is bigger than that. It includes people that you pass by, people, who are also at the grocery store when you're at the grocery store that you might have come into contact with. It includes people that those people have come into contact with. It all ties in together. So everybody, please make sure you're being smart about this and staying safe.
Yeah, most definitely. And Ken's column definitely goes in talking about that. I mean, the system that you deal with on a daily basis and the concept of a lockdown. There's some individuals, some businesses, some people that can't lock down because they need to keep this country rolling. And he talks about those individuals and how we can best protect them through this process. We do these little things, we can protect them, we can protect ourselves. As usual, Ken's got an opinion on the C-19, as he shortens it down to each and every week. So check it out on page 4. And once a month, I decide I want to spew off on a few things, and this is that week for that. This month's column, again, everybody's talking about COVID-19, and I had to talk about some of the new things that have been going on in Manitoba in regard to COVID-19. The increase in numbers, especially in Winnipeg. We always want to lay blame. When things go wrong, it feels like we want to blame somebody. And I felt that way initially as well. I really wanted to blame Winnipeggers for not doing the right things. But it's not all Winnipeggers. And I talk about it specifically. You know what? 5 to 7% of the population everywhere are just morons. I genuinely believe that. And I have enough experience in the world to say that I've run into a few. But again, when I say morons, I don't mean uneducated people. I don't mean unintelligent people in any way, shape, or form. And I say in the column, smart, educated people can be utter morons as well. I've been a moron from time to time. I'm either the dumbest genius or the smartest moron you'll ever meet. It depends on the moment you're talking to me. We all have our moronic moments. But we need to get past that and work towards a greater good in society. See beyond ourselves and our own little petty desires and wants and work towards the greater good. That's how Winnipeg's going to get under control. That's how Neepawa is going to stay relatively safe. Do these little things. It's a little more of a general tirade than normally. Under normal circumstances, I have a little more focus, but this one's one of those ones I just needed to get off my chest. Because we're on the cusp of a potential lockdown right now. We're going to be sent to bed without our supper. And I don't want that. I want supper. I want dessert. I don't want to be sent to my room. And if we all just sort of bear down and have our medicine, we'll be fine. Casper, is there anything else you want to throw out there?
I mean, if we do end up having to shut down or have a curfew, hopefully it helps. And with these things, like we discussed this a little bit in the office yesterday, but it's a combination of people not doing what they should, and with the government as well. Like, is the government really doing things that actually help? Are they pushing things to open too fast? And like in review of the reopening phases, at the time when they were proposed, like the early ones, the outline looked fair. But when it came time to do like, I think phase 2 to phase 3 or something like that, we're like, this is going too fast. Like we should not be proceeding to the next phase. We should probably be like reeling it back a bit because our cases have gone up.
And the remarkable thing about that as well is when you look at the chart, for some reason a month ago, just the start of October, the number just came out of nowhere. It was incredible to see when you actually look at the chart of it. It's just like normal, normal. Okay, slight rise, slight rise. Oh, geez, now we're in trouble.
Yeah.
It was like, what the heck?
Yeah, and like a while ago, we were celebrating like, yes, one case.
Yep.
Hopefully soon that will be zero, and maybe it will stay that way for quite a while. We can get a bearing on things. Everybody just like keep their minds together, play it safe still, and should be okay. Like it might come back, but hopefully it will be under wraps. Well, that's not really the right saying, but like it'll be under control, I should say.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
It was like 3 weeks ago when the numbers would come out on a daily basis. It was like, oh my God, 80 cases today. Oh my God. And then a couple days ago, it was like, oh, 103 cases. Yay! It's only 103 cases. It's amazing how you can get used to new normals.
Yeah, and that's a good point as well. But like, the one day, I don't remember which day it was, but I remember coming into the office after lunch, and Kira and Diane were in the office there, and they're like, any guesses? I'm like, I don't know, but I sure hope it's not like 500. And they're like, oh, you want to sit down. It was 480.
It was the 480 day, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the numbers were crazy already, but it's just like, please don't be like 500 or something. And oh man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Look, unfortunately, COVID is a reality we got to deal with each and every week. So, there's other stuff in this paper. There is.
We promised there.
And we'll get to it shortly. Let's just very quickly. Unfortunately, we're running a little short on time. Casper, you have some information on Parade of Lights and some scaled-down services in Neepawa on our travel and entertainment page.
Yes. So now the Neepawa services that is included in the Remembrance Day section. However, this is a slightly expanded story, just going into some of the details, like why they decided and whatnot. As well, stressing that the Legion is still open for business. It's not shut down. They're just under reduced hours. So, you know, whatever support that you can give to Legion, either by going in or even donating. We didn't really talk about donations, but I'm sure they would be happy to accept something like that. Then, you know, go ahead and do that. They do still have their 50/50s, jam sessions. So all the times for that is on the page there.
And again, the Poppy campaign, as you can see, this year the Poppy campaign, and it's very pleasing. I've heard cases of people who would normally give just $1 are giving $5, people who are giving $10. Give a little extra this year. I did. And I had no qualms about it whatsoever. These legions, due to COVID, have been facing so much stress. Let's help them out in any way possible. Definitely. Like, okay, let's shift gears. We're running low on time, so let's talk about non-COVID related stuff. Yes. This was a story Kira did, the NACI Hope Group Food Drive, and I'm very pleased to see that their numbers are up a little bit. If I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Casper, I think it was around 3,700 pounds of food they were able to bring in from this year's food drive. That's a tremendous number, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it was that number, and it's, you know, incredible, especially for, you know, a time like this, that they were able to bring in that amount of food. I know certain organizations haven't been able to do exactly what they would like to have done this year, but for the Hope Group to be able to collect that amount, even if it was a regular year, is just outstanding.
Wow, I just looked at the page here, and the quote is 60% more than last year's numbers. Not only did they surpass it, they destroyed it. They utterly obliterated it. So kudos to you, Neepawa, for stepping up when it was needed. It helps out such a good cause. It's part of the Scare Away Hunger food drive. You'll see some of the pictures there on A9. Appreciate Kira getting that information. So kudos to everyone that was involved. Just one more quick thing. We're going to roll through these things very quickly. Farm and Leisure Lottery, they gave their check for their 50/50 prize. This is another great example. $57,000 for the 50/50 prize. So about 114,000 total. That's about 6,000, 12,000 more than their previous high mark of 2017. Really good to see. The Farm and Leisure Lotto does so much good in the community. It helps out the medical clinic the last few years. Obviously, it's something that's important to Neepawa and the surrounding area, so it's wonderful. We're going to have another story next week where I had an interview with the person who won the $100,000 prize. So you're going to have to check that one out in next week's paper, but you can still see some of the details of this year's 50-50 winner, and along with a picture in this week's paper on A10. Now, this one just very finalized. There's a lot more that we could talk about. There's a lot of stuff that you're going to have to see with your own eyes, because there's only so much time in a half hour that we were able to talk. Stride Credit Union, we're going to finish off with this. They've moved into their new building. If you haven't seen it yet, their newly revamped building, it looks amazing. Don't you think, Casper?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had the opportunity to go in there and take a peek. Thankfully, it wasn't too busy at the time, and the new space honestly looks really good. It feels much brighter, more open than the old setup used to be, just with the colors and setups that they went with. And a few things architecturally feel like more of a feature with what they've gone with as well. So that's really nice to see.
Yep. It really is impressive. You can see those pictures, and it's great to see everybody's so excited about that, about a local business making some improvements. So let's finish off this week talking about local businesses. We have a special center section showcasing several local businesses throughout Neepawa. So take a few minutes, check that out, see those local businesses, and give them your support. It's very important in this point in time in our history. I know Amazon is easier sometimes, but maybe spend a couple bucks locally if you can, as opposed to Amazon. Maybe spend a couple bucks locally as opposed to eBay. Maybe spend those bucks here as opposed to Walmart. Local businesses are so important to a smaller community. So take a look at that. Appreciate what they do for each and every one of us, because you don't know what you got till it's gone. But by then it's too late. And with that, we're coming up late on this show. So we thank you for tuning in as always, and showing your support for us. If you have any sort of ideas for news stories, we always appreciate them. We'll get to them eventually, I'm sure, but we always like your tips. So give us a call at 476-3401. That's the number we can be reached at, or via email at news@neepawabanner.com. If you have anything sports related, sports@neepawabanner.com. And of course, if you have some advertising, we would appreciate that. Give us a contact either at ads@neepawabanner.com or creative@neepawabanner.com. Just get in touch with us. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong. We're trying to serve the community as best we can. We want to make sure we do it the right way. Casper, again, thank you very much for not just for sitting in on the couch this week, but for all the work. Next week, I swear, we'll have Kira sit in there and actually pull her weight.
Yep, it's her turn now.
Yep. And again, thank you for taking a little bit of your time and tuning in and learning a little bit of all the little idiosyncrasies that happen behind the scenes of the Neepawa Banner Press. And I hope that you have a good week. Thank you.